Hello everyone, this is Tejesh, instructor for engineering chemistry. Welcome to Edimon Tutorials. As the exams are approaching nearer, let us discuss an analysis of a model question paper given. Let us see the answers of these questions in this session. Question 1 is about types of hardness of water. There are mainly two types of hardnesses. Number 1, temporary hardness and permanent hardness. Temporary hardness is due to bicarbonates or carbonates of calcium and magnesium, and permanent hardness is due to chlorides and sulfates of calcium and magnesium. Coming to scales and sludges, sludge, which is a soft, loose, and slimy precipitate formed on the bottom of the boiler and which can be removed easily with a wire brush. Coming to scale, it is a hard substance which attaches or sticks very firmly to the bottom side of the boiler and it can't be easily removed even by chisel. 1C, breakpoint chlorination. Breakpoint chlorination. To discuss this topic, we shall discuss disinfection of water by chlorination. When we add chlorine gas or something containing chlorine, some compound containing chlorine, when we add it to the water to disinfect, up to certain level it does not disinfect the water, but after exceeding a limit it acts like it disinfects the water. From then the disinfection starts. This point is known as breakpoint chlorination. 1D, reinforced plastics. Normally polymers have low strength and low mechanical properties. To strengthen the polymer or to make better polymers by improving the some of the properties, we will combine polymers with some fillers to get some better products, and these filler plastics are known as reinforced plastics. 1E, galvanic series. Galvanic series, it describes about bimetallic or galvanic corrosion. On the top side of the galvanic series, it undergoes fast corrosion, and at low side, at bottom side of the galvanic series, it undergoes corrosion, less rate of corrosion than the metal or alloy that is present at the top of the galvanic series. Next one, ranking of coal. It is mainly based on some properties like amount of percentage of carbon, calorific value, hardness, percentage of moisture, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, sulfur, volatile matter, etc. For better quality of coal, the rank of coal is high. Mainly on the basis of rank of coal, it is divided into mainly four types: anthracite, bituminous, subbituminous, and lignite. Next, one Z, CNG and its applications. CNG, it means compressed natural gas. Its main application is it's used in vehicles instead of using gasoline and diesel as a fuel. Next, coming to 2A, explain lime soda process for water softening. Let's see the process of lime soda process. It is a process that is used to remove hardness, in which lime and soda are added to hard water. Calcium hydroxide and sodium carbonate act as good sources for hydroxyl and carbonate ions for magnesium and calcium for the formation of magnesium hydroxide and calcium carbonate respectively, thus forming PPTs which can be removed very easily and the hardness can be removed. In this process, all the hardness causing substances converted to sludge which can be removed by filtration or by scraping it. We should be careful that we should add very calculated amount of lime and soda to the hard water, as if the amount added is very high, it may cause to caustic embrittlement. Actually, lime soda process is classified into two types: hot lime soda process, cold lime soda process. Hot lime soda process is carried out at high temperatures. Cold lime soda process is carried out at room temperature. Let us see what are the steps involved in the lime soda process. Step 1. We should add calculated quantity of lime and soda to the hard water, and the following reactions occur at that place. That is, all the hardness causing substances get converted to slimy suspended PPTs and can be removed easily from the hard water. Step 2. The PPTs formed are very fine and are difficult to remove because they does not settle easily and making them it to filter difficult, and the removal process becomes difficult. We may face some difficulties while removing the PPTs. So we should add some coagulant so that all the PPT gets coagulated at place at some place and settle down to form a colloidal PPT. And the action of coagulants are described below. That is, when coagulant is added, all the PPTs get converted to flocculants and colloidal formation takes place, and thus the PPTs formed in the above case are removed easily without any distractions or difficulties. Next, let us see the apparatus this is involved. Upper one is mortar. Let us see the method involved. This is the diagram involved in the cold lime soda process. Let us see the method. The method is, first we should add raw water, that is hard water, and very calculated amount of chemicals from the top of the chambers, and we should vigorously stir and so that continuous mixing takes place, that is softening of water takes place easily, and the softened water comes out into the outer coaxial chamber and which rises upwards. Heavy sludge due to the formation of PPTs settle down and the softened water reaches up. This softened water, it is passed through a filtering medium to ensure the complete removal of sludge. Filtered soft water finally flows out continuously through the outlet of the top. Then the sludge which is settled at the bottom of the chamber is drawn off occasionally to ensure cleanliness of the apparatus. This coming to hot lime soda process, it is carried out at higher temperatures, that is at 80 degrees to 150 degrees Celsius. That is, it is operated close to the boiling point of water. There are some of the advantages when choosing hot lime soda process. Temperature is dependent on kinetics, so kinetics of the reaction takes place easily, that is reaction of kinetic reactions, that is faster rates, so sludge settle down rapidly and viscosity of soft water is lower, hence filter easily. Here no coagulant is required. So there are some of the advantages of overall lime soda process, which is economical, and some of the impurities like iron and manganese are removed, and mineral content of the water can also be removed here. There are some of the disadvantages too in this lime soda process, as huge amount of sludge is formed here and its disposal becomes difficult. Here some hardness cannot be removed. That is, there will be some hardness in the water after the process of lime soda. That is due to residual hardness. Water is not suitable for high pressure boilers. The next question is, write notes on WHO limits and reverse osmosis method. WHO limits. There are some standards given by WHO, that is World Health Organization, for potable water. These are some of the limits. Check it once. Let's discuss reverse osmosis. Let us discuss reverse osmosis method. Its definition is diffusion of solvent molecules from low to high concentrations through a semi-permeable membrane due to increase in osmotic pressure is known as reverse osmosis. It's osmosis, which is a natural phenomenon. Coming to reverse osmosis, when two solutions of unequal concentration are separated by a semi-permeable membrane, flow of solvent takes place from diluted to concentration side due to increase in osmotic pressure, which is termed as osmosis. However, when a hydrostatic pressure in excess of osmotic pressure is applied on the concentrated side, the flow of solvent is reversed from concentrated side to diluted side across the membrane. This principle is termed as reverse osmosis. Here, semi-permeable membrane used is selective. It permits only the flow of water molecules from the concentration side to diluted side. Cellulose acetate or polyamide, etc., are used as membrane, that is semi-permeable membrane here. The reverse osmosis process requires only mechanical force to generate the required hydrostatic pressure. Let us discuss the third question. The third question is, explain boiler troubles and their removal. There are mainly four types of boiler troubles. First one, scale and sludge formation. Second one, caustic embrittlement. Third one, priming and foaming. Fourth one, boiler corrosion. First one, scale and sludge formation. In this one, let us discuss sludge, which is a soft, loose and slimy precipitate formed within the boiler, which can be removed by using wire brush or some mild acid. Scale. These are hard substances which attaches very firmly to the bottom side of the boilers. These are difficult to remove even with the help of a hammer and a chisel. Let us discuss the reasons for the formation of scale. That is, presence of calcium bicarbonate in low pressure boilers, presence of CaSO4 in high pressure boilers, presence of magnesium chloride in high temperature boilers, and presence of silica. Some disadvantages of scale formation. Fuel is wasted, as scales have low thermal capacity, there is conductivity. The boiler may explode if crack occurs in scale. These are some of the important disadvantages. Remedies. that is removal of scale. Using scraper or wire brush often, we can remove scale to some extent, or by thermal shock, that is heating and cooling the boiler suddenly with hot and cold water. By doing so, we can remove the scale formed, and we can use some chemicals too, that is 5 to 10% of HCl, that is hydrochloric acid, and by adding EDTA, that is ethylene diamine tetraacetate. There are some of the methods to prevent scale formation. There are mainly two types of method: internal conditioning or internal treatment, and external conditioning or external treatment. These are some of the methods involved in the internal conditioning, and these are some of the methods involved in external conditioning. Next, coming to the caustic embrittlement. It is mainly caused due to the highly alkaline water. The highly alkaline water gives corrosion to the boiler wall as cathodic and anodic sides are formed due to the variations in concentrations of sodium hydroxide, that is Na2 and Na plus ions, that is iron in diluted caustic soda acts as cathodic side, and iron in concentrated caustic soda side act as anodic side. And sodium ferrite produces thus produced corrodes the walls of boiler, as more the sodium ferrite formed, more the iron content gets lost in the walls of boiler, and the boiler gets corroded. Prevention: adding some of the substances like sodium phosphate, sodium carbonates, adding lignin, that is which prevents the infiltration of caustic soda solution. That is these are some of the methods to prevent caustic embrittlement. Last one, that is boiler corrosion. It is the degradation or decomposition of boiler materials due to the chemical or electrochemical attack of dissolved gases or salts is called boiler corrosion, which is of mainly three types: corrosion due to dissolved oxygen, corrosion due to dissolved carbon dioxide, and corrosion due to acids formed by dissolved salts. Prevention: uh, corrosion due to dissolved oxygen, mainly formation of rust. Corrosion due to carbon dioxide, mainly formation of magnesium carbonates. Corrosion due to dissolved salts, mainly formation of rust. Prevention: these can be prevented by adding some alkaline to neutralize acidity and some antioxidant to remove oxygen. By maintaining pH level from 8 to 9, oxygen can be removed from boiler feed water by adding some of the substances like sodium sulfite. Oxygen can also be removed by adding, that is treating the hot water with hydrogen hydrate, that is NH2NH2. This is the reaction involved in it. The last one, priming and foaming. Priming, it is the process in which some particles in water are carried along with the steam. The resulting process is called wet stream or carryover. The process of formation of wet steam in boilers is called as priming. Causes: the presence of large amount of dissolved solids, sudden boiling, improper boiler design, etc. These are some of the disadvantages, that is reducing efficiency of turbine blades. The dissolved salts may enter the parts of other machinery, which may decrease the life of machinery. We can prevent priming by improving boiler design by fitting mechanical steam purifiers by using soft waters. Coming to foaming, it is the production of foam or bubbles in water which does not break easily. Causes, it is due to the presence of oily substances in water. Disadvantages, actual height of the water column can't be judged easily. Dissolved salts in water carried by wet stream may damage the turbine blades or machinery parts. Boiler pressure cannot be maintained easily. Prevention, adding anti-foaming chemicals and removing oil from water by boiler water by adding compounds like sodium aluminate which acts as coagulant. Steps involved in municipal water treatment: screening, sedimentation along with flocculation, filtration and disinfection. These are some of the steps involved in treatment of turbid surface water. Water intake or infiltration well. That is, first we take the water from the sources, and the next step is screening or pre-sedimentation tank. Screening, it removes any floating objects like leaves, etc. Mainly bar screens, mesh screens are used here. Sedimentation, removal of suspended matter having higher specific gravity than water, and also fine suspended matter, leaving water undisturbed for longer time in sedimentation water tank. This removes smaller or minute particles which does not pass through the screeners. It is enhanced by addition of coagulant or flocculant which collects all the dispersed particles and form aggregate colloidal particles and settle down in the water. Next, process of filtration, mainly the process of passing the water through the level of such granular materials is known as filtration. There are mainly two types of filters: the slow sand gravity filter and the rapid sand filter, and the processes are described here. This is the process of slow sand filter and this is the process of rapid sand filter. And the last main topic, this is disinfection, that is removing microbes, that is harmful microbes in the hot water present, and to make the water as potable. Mainly used mainly done by chlorination or adding chloramine or adding some other substances like that. Next one, explain the mechanisms of addition polymerization. Mainly two or more monomers combine to form a larger molecule, and the continuation takes place in the addition polymerization. There are mainly two types of addition polymerization, there is free radical polymerization and ionic polymerization. The first mechanism, free radical mechanism. There are mainly three steps involved in the free radical mechanism and even in the ion mechanism also. First one, chain initiation step, that is free radical generation, mainly addition of phenyl free radical formed by peroxide to the double bond in the compound, that is monomer, thereby forming a larger free radical. Next step is chain propagation step, which is attack of free radicals on monomers. Repetition of this sequence with new bigger free radical and thereby the chain increases. The last one is chain termination step. It is either by combination or disproportionation. The product free radical thus formed reacts with another free radical to form the polymerized product. Mainly occurs by three processes: collision between two growing chains, collision of a growing chain with an initiator radical, when the latter is proportionally in excess. Or some of the methods are described here. Next, we will discuss ionic polymerization. The same methods are described here. First, formation of initiation, that is formation of cations or anions. Second method, propagation, that is generation of bigger ionic methods or ions, that is cations or anions. And last, termination. Next, 4b, compare thermoplastics and thermosetting plastic. Compare thermosetting and thermoplastics. Thermoplastics, the monomer must have at least one bond, that is some of the plastics like ethylene and acetylene. In thermosetting plastics, these must have at least two identical or different functional groups, that is examples glycol, nylon 66. In thermoplastics, monomers add on to give a polymer and no other byproduct is formed. Here condensation takes place. Next one, number of monomer units decrease steadily throughout the reactions. In thermoplastics, monomers disappear at the early stage of reaction. In thermosetting plastics, high molecular weight polymer is formed at once. In thermoplastics, molecular weight of the polymer rises steadily throughout the reaction. In thermosetting plastics, here in thermoplastics, homochain polymer is obtained. In thermosetting plastics, heterochain polymer is obtained. The fifth question, A, explain reinforced plastics and conducting plastics. We have already seen what are the reinforced or filled plastics. That is, we will fill the plastics, that is, we will combine with some of the polymers to give better mechanical or some of the properties like that. This is known as reinforced or filled plastics. These are some of the special characters that can be imparted to the final reinforced or filled plastics. These are some of the commonly used fillers, that is wood floor, sawdust, cotton fibers, metallic oxides, metallic fiber, metallic powders, etc. These composition should also be maintained, that is percentage of filler can be up to 50% of the total molding mix. Nature of the polymers used here as some of the thermoplastics and thermosetting plastics, as well as rubbers, elastomers, etc. These are some of the examples: carbon black in addition to natural rubber, addition of China clay to PVC, fibrous fillers like wheat flour, short lengths of synthetic fibers, etc. Asbestos filled plastics, fiber reinforced plastics, etc. These can be generated to give better quality products, or some of the better, these will have some of the better properties which can be used. These are some of the applications, that is in automobiles, in defense purposes, in textile industries, in electrical or electronic industries. Some of the miscellaneous properties like what housing, chemical pump housings, tubings, seat coverings, etc. Conducting polymers. The polymers generally have low thermal conductivity and low electrical conductivity, but there are some polymers which can conduct electricity to some extent. There are mainly 3 to 4 types in the conducting polymers. These are discussed below. First one, intrinsically conducting polymer, that is, or conjugated pi electron conducting polymer. These have mainly conjugated pi electrons, and these conduct electricity too by exciting of conjugated electronic lone pairs inside the structure of the polymer. Next one, these are some of the commercially produced polymers, that is conducting polymers, polyacetylene polymers, and with some condensed aromatic links. With condensed aromatic ring, there may be mainly delocalization of pi electrons. So by movement of electrons, we can generate some of the electricity to some extent only when used condensed rings. Second one, doped conducting polymer. Mainly some dopants are used here to conduct electricity as the intrinsic conducting polymers. ICP possesses lower conductivities. There are mainly two types of doped conductors, mainly p dopant and n doping. P doping, here dopant is some Lewis acid. There are some of the common p dopants are iodine, bromine, AsF5, PF6, naphthylamine, etc. These are some of the examples of p-doping conducting polymers. Second one, n-doping conducting polymers. Here dopants are Lewis bases. Thus, reduction takes place and negative charges on the polymer backbone are created. Some of the n-dopants are Li, Na, Ca, tetrabutyl ammonium, ferric chloride. These are some of the examples of n-doping conducting polymers. The third one, extrinsically conducting polymers. These polymers have conductivity which is due to the presence of externally added ingredient in them. These are following two types: conducting element filled polymer, which is a resin or polymer filled material with conducting elements. These polymers possesses reasonably good bulk conductivity as some of the fillers are added that can be conductible. The second one is blended conducting polymer, which can be obtained by blending a conventional polymer with a conducting polymer or chemical change. Such polymers can be easily processed and possesses better physical, chemical and mechanical properties. The last one is coordination conducting polymer, and which is known as inorganic polymer. It is a charge transfer complex containing polymer obtained by combining a metal atom with a polydentate ligand. These are some of the applications. These are mainly used in aircrafts and aerospace components, in telecommunication systems, in anti-static coatings, in rechargeable lightweight batteries, in optical display devices, etc. Next, coming to 5b, explain chemical and electrochemical corrosion. First one is dry or chemical corrosion. This type of corrosion occurs mainly through the direct chemical change of environment or atmospheric gases such as oxygen, halogen, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen or anhydrous inorganic liquid with metal surfaces in immediate proximity. There are three main types of chemical corrosions. First one is oxidation corrosion, which is brought about by direct action of oxygen on metals. Second one is corrosion by other gases like sulfur dioxide, carbon dioxide, chlorine, hydrogen sulfide, fluorine, etc. These corrode some of the metals. The third one is liquid metal corrosion, which is due to chemical action of flowing liquid metal at high temperatures on solid metal or alloy. These either involve dissolution of solid metal by dissolution of a solid metal by liquid metal, or internal penetration of the liquid metal into the solid metal. The second one is wet electrochemical corrosion. This type of corrosion occurs where a conducting liquid is in contact with metal, or when two dissimilar metals or alloys are either immersed or dipped partially in a solution. This corrosion mainly occurs due to the existence of separate anodic or cathodic areas between which current flows through the conducting medium. Mainly anodic part suffers corrosion. This is the some of the equations or reactions involved in the corrosion medium. Coming to 6a, factors affecting corrosion, mainly nature of metal, position in galvanic series. Higher the position of metal in the galvanic series, faster the rate of corrosion will be. Relative areas of cathodic and anodic method. Anodic parts. If anodic area is small, corrosion occurs more. Purity of metal. Higher the purity of metal, larger will be the rate of corrosion. Physical state of metal also increases. Smaller the grain size of metal or alloy, greater will be its solubility and hence greater will be its corrosion. Nature of surface film. Greater the specific volume ratio, lesser is the oxidation corrosion rate. Passive character of metal, which will be mainly discussed in galvanic series, that is lower the position of metal or alloy in the galvanic series, the slower will be the rate of corrosion. Okay, solubility. If corrosion product is soluble in corroding medium, then the corrosion proceeds at a faster rate. Volatility of corrosion products. If it is volatile, corrosion will be at faster rate as the upper surface gets evaporated and the fresh surface will be available to the corrosion. The second one, nature of the corroding medium. Temperature. With increase in temperature of our environment, the reaction as well as diffusion rate increases. Thereby, corrosion rate is generally enhanced. Presence of impurities in atmosphere. In the presence of some of the corrosive gases like CO2, H2S, SO2, etc., the acidity of the liquid adjacent to the metal surfaces increases and its electrical conductivity also increases, which enhances the rate of corrosion. Presence of suspended particles in atmosphere. These mainly are chemically active in nature. They absorb moisture and act as strong electrolytes, thereby enhancing the corrosion rate. Influence of pH. Mainly acidic media is more corrosive than alkaline and neutral media. Nature of ions. Mainly acidic ions are present, faster the rate of corrosion, and neutral some of the basic or neutral ions will be there. Passivity will be the corrosion rate. Conductance of corroding medium. If the medium is highly corrosive, the metal gets corroded easily. Coming to 6b, explain the proximity analysis of coal. Proximate analysis consists of mainly determination of volatile carbonaceous matter, fixed carbon, ash, and moisture of the air-dried coal. Moisture. 1 gram of finely powdered air-dried sample taken in a crucible and heated in an electrically heated hot air oven at 105 to 110 degrees for 1 hour and again weighed after desiccation till constant weight. This is the formula to find moisture content in a coal. Volatile matter, the process is described as below. A muffle furnace we heat for 250 plus or minus 20 degrees Celsius for 7 minutes and then cooled and weighed after desiccation till constant weight, and this is the formula to find the percentage of volatile matter. Ash, the residual sample we get by doing the above experiments. E is taken in a crucible and heated in the furnace at 700 plus or minus 50 degrees Celsius for 1 or 2 hours without the lid. Then it is cooled and left in the desiccator and weighed till the constant weight. and this is the percentage of ash is weight of ash left and divided by weight of coal taken into 100. Percentage of fixed carbon is calculated as below, that is 100% minus percentage of moisture plus volatile matter plus ash. Significance: higher the percentage of fixed carbon, higher is the calorific value and better is the quality of coal, and higher is the rank of coal. Seventh one, A. Explain the refining of petroleum and characteristics of products obtained. The below steps are involved in the refining of petroleum. First one is Cottrell's process, which is intermittently mixing with water, and that is crude oil is mixed with water forming an emulsion. Water is separated from oil by passing the emulsion through Cottrell electrostatic precipitate. Second process, removal of objectionable compounds. Sulfur compounds have objectionable properties of pollution, so they are removed prior to distillation as copper sulfide by treatment with copper oxide. Petroleum distillation, mainly fractional distillation is occurred here, that is the crude oil is subjected to fractional distillation to about 400 degrees Celsius in an iron retort, whereby all the volatile components except the solid residue are distilled out. So by fractional distillation, the higher boiling fractions condense first, which is a continuous flow process, and the following fractions are obtained. This is the fractional distillating unit in the refining of petroleum. These are the main fractions of fractional distillation. First one is gasoline, solvent naphtha, kerosene, gas oil, etc. Gasoline obtained at mainly 200 degrees Celsius. Its calorific value is 14,250 kilocalorie per kg and is used as fuel for internal combustion engines in automobiles and aircrafts. Solvent naphtha, it's obtained as a side stream between 200 to 250 degrees Celsius, contains some gasoline which is passed back to the main fractionating column. Naphtha contains 6 to 10 carbon atoms. C. Kerosene oil, which is obtained between 250 to 300 degrees Celsius. Okay, mainly it is used for illuminant purposes. Gas oil, which is mainly obtained between 300 to 350 degrees Celsius. It's used as a diesel engine fuel with calorific value of 11,000 kilocalorie per kg. The residual liquid coming out from the bottom on subsequent treatment yields lubricating oil, vaseline, grease, paraffin wax, asphalt, bitumen, petroleum, coke, etc. These are the fractions of petroleum that is obtained from the petroleum distillation or fractional distillation of petroleum. 7b. Write notes on octane and cetane numbers and propellant. Octane number. Octane number is equal to the percentage by volume of isooctane, that is 2,2,4 trimethyl in a mixture of N-heptane and isooctane having the same knocking tendency compared to the sample of gasoline being tested, as isooctane has the best anti-knocking properties and assigned an octane number of 100, whereas N-heptane has poor anti-knocking property and assigned an octane number of 0. Cetane number, it is equal to the percentage by volume of N-hexadecane, that is cetane in a mixture of N-hexadecane and alpha-methyl naphthalene having the same knocking tendency compared to the sample of diesel being tested, as N-hexadecane is given acetane number 100 and alpha-methyl naphthalene given acetane number 0. These are the structures of n-heptane and isooctane, and cetane and alpha-methyl naphthalene. Coming to propellants, a propellant is a chemical substance used in the production of energy or pressurized gas that is subsequently used to create movement of a fluid or to generate propulsion of a vehicle, projectile, or other objects. Example: gasoline, jet fuel, rocket fuel. మెయిన్గా ఇది ఏమవుతుందంటే ఎక్కువ ఎక్కువ థ్రస్ట్ ఏది ఇస్తే దాన్ని ప్రొపెలెంట్ అంటారు అనమాట. మెయిన్గా గ్యాస్లిన్, జెట్ ఫ్యూయల్, రాకెట్ ఫ్యూయల్ ఇవి చాలా ఎక్కువ థ్రస్ట్ని ఈస్ ఫోర్స్ టు డ్రైవ్ దీన్ని ఎక్కువగా ఇస్తుంది కాబట్టి దీన్ని ప్రొపెలెంట్స్ అంటారు. మెయిన్గా రెండు రకాల ప్రొపెలెంట్స్ ఉంటాయి, సాలిడ్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్ అండ్ లిక్విడ్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్. సాలిడ్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్ అనేవి మళ్ళీ హోమోజీనియస్ అండ్ కాంపోజిట్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్గా క్లాసిఫై అయ్యాయి. లిక్విడ్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్ వచ్చేసి మోనోప్రొపెలెంట్స్ అండ్ బై ప్రొపెలెంట్స్గా క్లాసిఫై అయిపోయాయి అనమాట. దీస్ ఆర్ క్లాసిఫికేషన్ ఆఫ్ ప్రొపెలెంట్స్, solid propellants and liquid propellant classification. The last question, write a short note on the following method. A. Zeolite method. B. Pitting and intergranular corrosion. C. Rocket fuels. Natural hydrated sodium aluminosilicate is called permutate, and the one which is synthesized in lab is called zeolite. The process involved in zeolite process, that is, hard water is percolated at a specified rate through a bed of zeolite kept in a cylinder. The hardness causing ions are retained by the zeolite as calcium zeolite and magnesium zeolite, while the outgoing water contains sodium salts, and the zeolite is regenerated by adding some of the brine. దీని అర్థం ఏంటంటే వాటర్లో ఉన్న కాల్షియం అండ్ మెగ్నీషియం అయాన్స్ కాస్త జియోలైట్లో ఉన్న అయాన్తో ఎక్స్చేంజ్ అయిపోయి కాల్షియం జియోలైట్ అండ్ మెగ్నీషియం జియోలైట్గా ఫామ్ అవుతాయి. మళ్ళీ ఈ కాల్షియం అండ్ మెగ్నీషియం జియోలైట్స్ని కాస్త మనం బయటికి తీసేసి తర్వాత మళ్ళీ ఈ కాల్షియం అండ్ మెగ్నీషియం జియోలైట్స్లో నుంచి బ్రైన్ సొల్యూషన్ని యాడ్ చేసి మనం మన జియోలైట్ని వెనక్కి తెచ్చుకోవచ్చు అనమాట. ఇది జియోలైట్ ప్రాసెస్. కమింగ్ టు పిట్టింగ్ అండ్ intergranular corrosion. Pitting corrosion is a localized accelerated attack resulting in the formation of cavities around which the metal is relatively unattached. Thus, pitting corrosion results in the formation of pinholes and pits and cavities in the metal. Pitting is usually the result of breaking or cracking down of the protective film on a metal at specific parts. మెయిన్గా హోల్స్ ఫామ్ అవుతాయి ఈ పిట్టింగ్ కరోషన్ వల్ల. ఈ హోల్స్ ఫామ్ అవడం వల్ల కరోషన్ కాస్త ఇంకా పెరిగిపోతుంది అనమాట. నెక్స్ట్ వన్, ఇంటర్గ్రాన్యులర్ కరోషన్. దిస్ టైప్ ఆఫ్ కరోషన్ అక్కర్స్ అలాంగ్ విత్ ద గ్రెయిన్ బౌండరీస్ అండ్ ఓన్లీ వేర్ ద మెటీరియల్ ఎస్పెషల్లీ సెన్సిటివ్ టు కరోషన్ అటాక్ ఎగ్జిస్ట్, and corrosion liquid possesses a selective character of attacking only at the grain boundaries but leaving the grain interiors untouched or slightly attacked. This type of corrosion is due to the fact that the grain boundaries contain material which shows electrode potential more anodic than that of the grain center in the particular corroding medium. మెయిన్గా గ్రెయిన్ బౌండరీస్ అన్నీ వదిలేసి అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ని మాత్రం ఇక్కడ అటాక్ చేస్తుంది అనమాట. కరోషన్ ఇక్కడ అవుటర్ సర్ఫేస్ని అటాక్ చేస్తూ ఉంటుంది.